You meditate, you affirm, you visualize. You try to keep your mind positive, your heart open, your intention clear. But deep inside, something still feels the same. Life keeps repeating the same scenarios, the same emotions, the same silences. It's as if a part of you knows you're trying, but another part, older and quieter, hasn't truly changed. And maybe that creates a deep fatigue, a kind of spiritual exhaustion that can't be explained in words, but is felt in the body. That sensation of living in an invisible loop, as if the universe is deaf to your effort. But what if that silence isn't rejection, but reflection? You are not being ignored. You are emitting a signal that still echoes the past. A vibrational pattern that repeats not because you don't want change, but because a part of you still feels safe in what is known. Bruce Lipton shows us that our deepest beliefs shape not only our behavior, but our biology. The body becomes a mirror of the mind, and if within you there's still an old program, fear, guilt, scarcity, that frequency will keep broadcasting, even with all the conscious effort and good intention. Joe Dispenza calls the body the physical subconscious, a living emotional field that memorizes sensations, behaviors, and responses. So even if you think differently, if your body still vibrates insecurity, that is the signature the universe reads. The quantum field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to stabilized emotional frequency. And stabilizing frequency isn't about wishing harder, it's about feeling with presence. Maybe your life isn't stuck. Maybe it's simply echoing something you haven't yet realized you're still repeating. An emotional memory, a worthiness pattern, a story you've learned to call reality. But the truth is, it's just a reflection, and an echo only stops when the source of the sound changes. There's a kind of stagnation that doesn't scream. It disguises itself as routine, as normalcy, as life as it is. It's subtle, it's quiet, but inside you feel it. Something is stuck. There's no visible crisis, no chaos, but there's no forward movement either. And what's most confusing is that rationally everything seems fine, but spiritually, you feel like you've been in the same place for a long time. The same kind of thoughts, the same recurring emotions, the same absence of real movement. And maybe you've gotten used to it because it became familiar. But familiarity is not the same as evolution. You can be living the same emotional frequency every day, and that doesn't mean you're growing. It means you're repeating. Bruce Lipton explains that our deepest beliefs form an internal field that gets projected into external reality. If that field is stuck in old emotional patterns, fear, rejection, unworthiness, it will keep broadcasting the same signal, even if your mind wants something new. This repetition is so subtle it feels like part of who you are. You wake up, feel the same low-grade anxiety, you enter the same conversations, live the same internal dialogues, and believe you're evolving because you're trying. But the quantum field doesn't read effort, it reads stabilized vibration. And if your vibration doesn't change, neither does your reality. It just repeats, like a faithful mirror. You're not failing, you're just caught in a vibrational loop that became comfortable. And simply recognizing that is already a rupture, because the cycle only breaks when someone dares to look at the familiar with new eyes and feel, this thing that feels normal, maybe it's no longer my deepest truth. You perform your rituals, you light the candle, take a deep breath, repeat your words of intention. You visualize what you want, you give thanks in advance, but deep down something feels stuck, and slowly that starts to turn into frustration, as if something were wrong with the practice, or with you. But the truth is more subtle. The ritual alone doesn't transform. What transforms is the frequency you carry outside of it, when no one is watching. When you're alone with your thoughts, your daily gestures, your automatic reactions, that's where your true vibration is revealed. Practice without coherence holds no creative power. You can affirm 1,000 times that you are abundant, but if outside the ritual you vibrate with fear of loss, the field hears the fear. You may meditate with total focus, but if afterward you live in a state of tension, control, or urgency, your frequency becomes unstable. Joe Dispenza explains that the quantum field doesn't respond to words, it responds to inner states. Real states, not performed ones. What you vibrate when you're not even trying to vibrate. It's easy to seem elevated during a ritual. The challenge is sustaining that elevation when when life challenges you, when doubt creeps in, when silence lingers longer than expected. The universe is not impressed by performance, it responds to your most consistent frequency. And that frequency is not revealed in beautiful words, but in what you allow yourself to feel when nothing seems to be changing. Bruce Lipton affirms, your biology is shaped by your internal emotional environment. So the most powerful ritual doesn't happen with incense and mantras. It happens when, in your ordinary day, you act as someone who has already become what they want to manifest. Not in ritualistic gestures, but in spontaneous ones. In what you feel when you're not trying to feel anything at all. Sometimes, in the face of frustration from not seeing change, you try to do more. You increase the intensity. Repeat affirmations with more force, more volume, more urgency. You add new techniques, more visualizations, more daily practices. But inside, something still feels restless. Because what often drives this intensity isn't trust, it's fear. Fear of not vibrating correctly. Fear of losing what hasn't even arrived. Fear of being left behind. What few people realize is that this attempt to compensate vibrationally through more effort can, paradoxically, deepen the block. Because the field doesn't respond to how hard you try. It responds to what you're truly and consistently emitting. And if what you emit is anxiety disguised as discipline, or fear dressed up as faith, the field responds to the real content, not the apparent intention. Bruce Lipton teaches that the body records your most frequent emotions as if they were biological norms. That means even when you're trying to create something new, if you're doing it from a vibration of urgency, your body interprets it as just another repetition of the old pattern, that nothing is enough, that you need to do more to be worthy, that you're still not ready. Doing more doesn't always mean feeling more. Sometimes, doing less with more presence is what truly shifts the field. It's the vibrational quality of the action, not the quantity, that moves reality. Excessive effort, when rooted in fear, only reinforces the unconscious belief that change is far away, and that alone keeps everything exactly the same. Even when the mind has already understood what needs to be done, the body often resists. And this resistance isn't stubbornness, it's memory. The body stores emotions as safety shortcuts. If for many years you felt anxiety, scarcity, rejection, the body started recognizing those emotions as familiar. And what is familiar, even if painful, is registered by the nervous system as safe. So when you try to vibrate something new, your body pulls you back. Not because it doesn't want you to change, but because it's trying to protect you. Joe Dispenza calls this body memory. The body as an extension of the subconscious. You might wake up and say, today I will vibrate love, abundance, gratitude. But the moment something gets out of control, your body reacts as it always has. It tenses, it shuts down, it speeds up. And that's the sign that the old pattern is still in charge, no matter what the mind is saying. Bruce Lipton reinforces that our internal environment, made of emotional chemistry, shapes our choices, our perceptions, and even the opportunities we're capable of recognizing. And if that chemistry is still tied to fear, urgency, or unworthiness, the body will send that signal to the field, even if the mind is trying something new. It's like trying to change the radio station, but continuing to turn the dial on the same frequency. That's why reprogramming reality requires more than mental intention. It requires patience with the body, compassion for automatic reactions, presence to feel, to breathe, and gently show the nervous system that there is another way now. No rush, no force, just consistency and gentleness. Because when the body starts to feel safe in the new, the field can finally respond differently. Sometimes all it takes to break an old cycle is a moment of true coherence. 5 seconds of full presence. It doesn't require much time or elaborate techniques. It requires emotional honesty. Vibrational change begins in the body. It begins when you allow yourself to feel what is alive inside you without running. When you pause for a moment, take a deep breath, feel your feet on the ground, and come back to yourself. The practice is simple. When you notice you're entering a repeated pattern, anxiety, rushing, frustration, stop. Breathe in silence for 5 seconds. Feel the air coming in, feel your body as it is. Observe what you're feeling without trying to change it. Just feel and name it. Right now I'm afraid, or I'm feeling uncertain, or simply I'm agitated. This gesture, small as it may seem, already shifts your frequency because it pulls you out of autopilot, and autopilot is the greatest ally of vibrational repetition. Joe Dispenza says true coherence isn't a mental concept, it's a felt experience. The connection between heart and brain is established in the body when you breathe with presence, when you observe without judgment, when you choose not to react as you always have. And this brief moment of pause sends a new signal to the field. A signal that says, I'm here, different from yesterday. Bruce Lipton shows us that biology transforms when the inner environment changes. And the inner environment changes when you stop fighting what you feel and begin to welcome what arises. 5 seconds may seem small, but in the quantum field, an authentic vibration, even if brief, holds more power than 1,000 empty repetitions. Because the universe doesn't need intensity, it needs truth. You can change your appearance, your words, even your actions. But if you're still vibrating the same emotional pattern inside, the field will continue to respond the same way. There is a subtle, almost imperceptible phenomenon that traps many people on the path of transformation, the so-called beautiful loop. You learn new concepts, speak more consciously, act more gently, but all of it is rehearsed, not felt, and the universe feels the difference. You may appear more spiritual, more positive, more aligned. You might post quotes, perform rituals, follow a perfect routine. But if your body is still vibrating fear, rejection, or lack, the field responds to that vibration. Because the quantum field doesn't read image, it reads vibrational signature. And that signature doesn't change with appearance, it changes with integration, with presence, with the emotional truth you carry when no one is watching. Bruce Lipton shows us that our physiology is governed by unconscious beliefs. This means you can consciously want something, but if at the deepest levels, you still believe you're unworthy or that it's hard, your body is sending that signal all the time. And the field responds with precision. Because it is neutral, it doesn't interpret, it simply mirrors. Joe Dispenza invites us to recognize the difference between knowing something and being it. Knowing is in the mind. Being is in the body. It shows up in your spontaneous reactions, in the silence after the practice, in the way you treat yourself when you fall short. Performative manifestation doesn't sustain change. Only real transformation, rooted in the body and in emotion, shifts what the field reflects. You can wish for many things: love, peace, abundance, recognition. You can visualize each one in detail, with intention, with devotion. But the quantum field doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you tolerate. And that's a hard truth to accept. Because so often you say you want more but settle for less. You remain in relationships that diminish you, in routines that drain you, in silences that sicken you. And the field understands. This is what you consider acceptable. This is what you vibrate as normal. The universe doesn't organize itself around your declared intentions. It organizes around what you emotionally sustain every day. If you desire respect but tolerate devaluation, the field will keep reflecting devaluation. If you want freedom but coexist with guilt, the field will mirror imprisonment. Bruce Lipton explains that your external reality is shaped not by your rational will, but by your inner environment. And that environment is made of repeated emotions, of silent stories you carry as if they were truths. Joe Dispenza speaks of the importance of aligning thought, emotion, and action. If even one of these is out of tune, the field picks up on it, and there's no way to fool it, because it doesn't move by beautiful words, it moves by coherent vibration, and coherence only arises when you stop settling for what hurts. When you begin to say no to what dims your light, not just with words, but with the energy you carry in your presence. You don't transform your life by what you desire. You transform it when you energetically refuse to keep sustaining what no longer reflects who you are. What keeps the old reality alive isn't lack of effort, it's unconscious emotional repetition. You wake up, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, react to the same triggers, and without even noticing, you reinforce the same vibrational pattern as always. The body feels, the field listens, life replicates. It's a hypnotic cycle. You feel stuck, but in truth, you're just addicted to feeling the same way. The pattern isn't just mental, it's chemical, neurological, energetic. Bruce Lipton shows us that these repeated emotions create grooves within us, neural pathways where energy flows automatically. You don't need to consciously think for the pattern to activate. It happens on its own. And over time, this way of feeling becomes your identity. You stop noticing you're sad or anxious or on alert because you've grown used to living that way. And the field without judgment simply responds. If that's what you feel, that's what you're emitting. Joe Dispenza speaks of emotional addiction as one of the greatest traps in manifestation. The attachment to suffering isn't intentional, it's learned, it's familiar, it's known, and the brain seeks the known as a form of safety. That's why the first step isn't to force change. It's to become aware of how deeply you're still tied to an emotion you no longer want to feel. Emotional repetition is like an old song playing in the background, low but constant. And as long as it plays, your reality will keep dancing to the same rhythm. Changing that track requires intention, but above all, presence. Presence to hear what's playing inside and to choose consciously to stop the music that no longer represents you. Changing your surroundings is not the same as changing your frequency. And this is one of the greatest illusions on the spiritual path. You can move to a new house, a new city, a new relationship, a new job. You can alter every external variable of your life. But if the inner feeling remains the same, reality will reorganize itself to reflect once again what you haven't yet changed within. It's escape disguised as progress, and on the surface, everything seems different. But inside, the same silent pain is still in charge. Some people mistake movement for evolution, but Bruce Lipton reminds us, it's the inner environment, not the outer one, that determines what your biology and your reality will manifest. If you still feel abandoned, needy, or unworthy, even in new places, those feelings will infiltrate your next chapter. They'll disguise themselves in your new connections. And over time, they'll recreate the same kind of life you were trying to leave behind. Joe Dispenza speaks clearly about this. True change is not about changing your circumstances. It's about changing your state of being. And your state of being is what you feel as normal. If chaos feels like your point of balance, you'll attract chaotic situations. If love always comes with pain in your emotional blueprint, you'll seek out relationships that prove it. And the universe, as a faithful mirror, will simply deliver what you carry as your base vibration. External change is easy, fast, sometimes necessary. But if it's not accompanied by a deep dive into your emotional truth, it becomes just a distraction, an elegant detour, a new stage for the same play. Reality only truly changes when what you feel as normal transforms. And that happens on the inside, in the silence, in the intimate, in the unseen. Most repetitive cycles don't begin with a major event. They begin with a moment, a micro gesture, a fleeting thought, a familiar feeling that suddenly arises, and you don't even notice. And without realizing it, you're already reacting the same way, vibrating in the same pattern, emitting the same signal as always. This is the vibrational loop. It begins before the action, before the words, before the choice. And it can only be interrupted when there is awareness in the exact moment it tries to restart. The technique of conscious interruption is simple, yet profound. It doesn't require effort. It requires presence. When you feel you're about to repeat, to complain, to play the victim, to stay silent out of fear, to accept what hurts, stop. Acknowledge, this is the moment where the old cycle tries to return. Name it, breathe, and calmly choose to emit a different signal. It could be a new gesture, a different kind of silence, a more loving thought, a gentler gaze toward yourself, small but new. And that new creates a crack in the pattern. Joe Dispenza teaches that the brain needs new experiences to create new neural pathways. And those experiences don't need to be grand. They need to be felt, real. With every conscious interruption, you weaken the emotional network that used to fuel your old reality. And you begin to teach your body and the field that a new frequency is available. Bruce Lipton reminds us that it's the internal environment, repeated daily, that shapes what you call destiny. And when you shift that environment with firmness and compassion, even for brief moments, life listens. The universe doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present. And every time you interrupt the loop before it completes, you send the most powerful signal to the field: I have changed. What repeats in your life is not bad luck, it's not karma, it's not punishment. It's simply the ongoing reflection of a vibrational signature that has stabilized within you, an emotional field that became a habit, an internal pattern that plays out automatically until someone with awareness and courage chooses to reprogram the origin of the echo. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the true programmer of reality is not what happens outside, it's what pulses within. Your beliefs, your most recurring feelings, the way you perceive yourself in the world. All of that shapes your biology, your behavior, your choices, and as a result, it shapes your reality. But he also shows us something liberating. This internal environment can be changed. And when it changes, everything changes. Neville Goddard said it with precision. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you believe yourself to be. And that being is not some abstract concept, it's an embodied state. It's what you live through the body, feel in silence, and repeat in the subtle rhythms of your everyday life. Your reality does not respond to the desire you repeat. It responds to the vibration you sustain. So don't chase the new reality. Become the frequency that makes it inevitable. It will arrive not when you beg harder, but when you stop unconsciously repeating the emotion that keeps everything the same. Quantum change doesn't require urgency. It requires coherence. You are not waiting, you are echoing. And an echo only stops when the origin of the sound changes. Your origin, the point where your vibration begins. That's where everything starts again. That's where the new begins to take form.